Right then, guys, it's time for the Motorsport Weekly Wrap. We've got loads to get into this weekend because we've got testing to talk about. We have some news from BTCC, Formula E as well, so plenty to chat about. So let's get straight into it. So first things first, here is the PGF1 Motorsport channel. Please do make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. On here is all the videos that we do every week, including any updates that go on during the week. And here is the car channel, gone in 60 seconds. We have had a couple of Cupras on the channel this week, and we have got the new ID Buzz GTX, which is the super bonkers fast version, going live on the channel on Tuesday night. So full reviews and the 5 things that I love about videos will appear on there as well. So please do make sure you subscribe to both. Right, let's get straight into the motorsport news. So last week we talked about Formula E because they were racing in Jeddah. On the Friday night, Pascal Wehrlein won the race. We know about that because we talked about it in last week's video. But on Saturday there was a second race with Antonio Felix da Costa winning in the Jaguar, Sebastian Buemi coming second, and Oliver Rowland in the Nissan coming third. But what happened, and the reason it was on Friday and Saturday rather than Saturday, Sunday, is because on Sunday they had the Evo Sessions where they had influencers in the cars, so non-racing drivers, just YouTube and TikTok personalities, etc. in the cars. People that I have never heard of because I'm too old. But the winner of the Evo Sessions overall, so the fastest time was Burnt Chip, and number 2 was Bazinga. I have no idea who those people are, but maybe you do. The one person I do know is Izzy Hammond, Richard Hammond's daughter, who drove for Lola. She crashed, and it was a pretty bad accident, but she's absolutely fine, so that is all good. There is also on the Formula E website full race replays of the 2 Jeddah races, so that is well worth a watch if you haven't seen them already, because they were really good races, and 2 different formats as well when you've got a double header in Formula E, because race 1 is the one with the pit boost where they go in the pit lane and they plug your car in for 30 seconds and you get a massive boost of energy, and then in the second one you get the Mario Kart style boost where you drive over the patch. They go offline to drive over and get a boost, so it's 2 very different types of format of racing, so they're definitely worth watching. There's a little bit of BTCC news with Daniel Rowbottom joining Plato Racing. They haven't announced their second driver yet. And Power Max Racing have signed Dexter Patterson for 2026. So 2 new signings in BTCC as well. Then F1, we had F1 testing, and I'm wearing the Ferrari merch today because Ferrari won testing, and we have to hope that, well, I have to hope that Lewis is going to win his 8th World Championship at some point, so why not this year? Ferrari did look like they had the pace. That is the headline story, I suppose. They've certainly been innovative. They've got a new rear wing that completely flips over. They've bought a new beam wing. There's loads of new tweaks to that Ferrari. It looks very, very good. However, as always, there are caveats. Pace in testing is one thing, pace in a race weekend is something completely different. So let's talk pecking order. Now, first of all, there are loads of things on the race where they break it all down, and if you want to read those in detail, go along to the race, so the-race.com, and they've got loads of Formula 1 testing, deep dives and tech info and all that sort of stuff, and it is really, really good. So I'm not going to just read them because that'll be really boring, but it certainly looks like, if we look at the headline pace, you've got the top 4 teams. So you've got Ferrari, you've got Mercedes, and you've got Red Bull, and you've got McLaren, and it feels very much that it's that kind of order, but I think certainly in the first few races any one of those could win. They look really, really close. And then you've got your next group of teams, and in that you've got Haas, who were really, really quietly brilliant in testing, just pushing through the miles, doing absolutely brilliantly. You've got Williams, who were late to testing, so probably don't have a full read of their car yet. You've got RB, again, very impressively, quietly going about their business. No headline grabbing times, but loads and loads of miles. In there you've got Alpine as well, who have moved to Mercedes power units. And they actually look very good. They certainly look in the mix there with the Williams with the similar power units as well. So that section of the grid I think is also really, really close. But it does feel like there is a bit of daylight between that top four and then the midfield group. Then you've got Audi, which is a bit of an unknown. Their long run pace actually looks all right. They look like they're right in that group. But they are a massive unknown because their power unit is brand new to Formula One. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if their pace is genuine, then they could well be within that group, making that a group of 5 for midfield. Then you've got the two teams at the back. You've got Cadillac, who are brand new. Everything is new about their team. I think everyone expects them to be at the back, but I don't think they're going to be quite last. And you know what? They came back with the second test. They have achieved quite a few more miles. I don't think they're going to be particularly quick, but let's hope they can be reliable. They've got a lot to learn in a very short space of time. But the real disappointment, the real big disappointment is Aston Martin. Now, we don't know whether it's the power unit, but there certainly seems to be problems with the power unit. We don't know if it's the car, if it's the packaging. But on the final day of testing, they could only go out and do runs of up to 2 laps. It was really, really painful. And it looks like they're potentially battling against catastrophic failures for this Honda power unit. So a really, really worrying test for them, and a massive test for Adrian Newey. It's his first car in green. It is Honda's first works car for a very, very long time. There is a lot of money has been sunk into that project, and you've got Fernando Alonso. There are a lot rides on this, and at the minute it looks like an utter disaster. It doesn't look like they'll be able to do enough laps to even qualify. It is dangerously bad at this point in time. Whether they're going to have to cut the car up, put more cooling in for the power unit, whether the power unit needs completely overhauling, I do not know. But at the moment, it looks completely worrying. Now, as we look along here, there are some other F1 bits and pieces. So we've got a change in the start procedure. There was some testing. There were some times this week where they've tested the start procedure because they were a little bit worried about whether teams would be able to get off the line or whether it would just be absolute chaos. And that's purely because with the new power units, without trying to get too technical, you need to spool up the turbo and you need to rev the car to give yourself full power mode. So they've agreed to add in a few seconds before the light sequence just to make sure all the cars have enough time to spool up that turbo. And the new agreement is that currently in the rules there's a little grey area because it doesn't say you can't use the new straight line mode, what used to be DRS effectively, with your wings down from the start. But all the teams agree that that's probably not a very good idea. So that has just been agreed that will be changed. It might not be changed in the rules in time for Australia, but it will be at least a directive from the race director on safety grounds. So you won't be able to use the straight line mode from the start. Everyone will have their wings in corner mode, which is pretty normal. If you think in previous years with DRS, you weren't allowed to use DRS until like lap 2 or something. So it just is a bit of common sense, really. Especially with everyone launching full tanks of fuel into the first corner, not quite sure how it's going to feel, and then their state changing, you can imagine that the airflow reattaching and everything, it's just going to cause loads of instability and potentially quite a few accidents. So in the name of safety, it makes a lot of sense. Aston Martin we've already talked about. Then we've got Mercedes adding a new rear wing. We talked about Ferrari's rear wing that just completely flips over. Mercedes have got a new rear wing, also with a fourth element in the corners. Another little tweak which could be pivotal, and I think rear wings are where we're going to see a massive development path going down, but for all the teams going down and trying out different things as the races come along. Last piece of F1 news here is that F1 are considering a race weekend shake-up, and we know they've been talking about this for a while. We know they want to put in more sprints, But the big piece of feedback coming back is that Fridays with the 2 test sessions or the 2 practice sessions just isn't riveting enough for non-diehard fans, which is why we have the sprint races, because you've got the extra qualifying and it makes more competitive elements. So they're also considering whether they should put in rookie testing, some kind of shootout or something else on a Friday, just to keep fans engaged, more eyeballs on the screen for longer with competitive sessions. So there is discussions about that, and things there could change probably for next year. There's also discussions about having a race possibly in Turkey next year, because there's going to be a gap in the schedule where you've now got Spa and Barcelona rotating, so there might be a space on the calendar for Turkey to come in 2027. But again, we will see how it goes. There's a lot of water to go under the bridge before anything is agreed there, because someone has to come up with the money. Last things last, we're going to have a look at the M Sport Extra calendar. It is a quietish weekend this weekend. We've got the Supercars Sydney 500, which you can follow by clicking on the link in the M Sport Extra calendar. Then it is a quiet-ish week. Next weekend you have IndyCar and MotoGP. So February 27th to March 1st, but that's next week, and we'll talk about them then. Of course, 2 weeks until Australia. What do you think the pecking order will be going into that race? It does also look that it could be rain on Sunday. So let's see. It's going to be very, very exciting. Tell me in the comments what you think of testing, what you think the pecking order is going to be. It'll be great to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.